Actress and icon Farrah Fawcett died this morning after a long battle with cancer.
Beauty epitomized an era. Farrah Fawcett died today, losing a hard-fought battle with anal cancer.
Farrah Fawcett's smile launched millions of posters and changed television forever. But she ended up filming her own death. The men who claimed to love her cheated on her on Valentine's Day. The industry that made her famous turned against her. And when she needed privacy the most, even her medical records became front-page news. This is the heartbreaking story of Farrah Fawcett no one talks about. Farrah Fawcett was born on February 2, 1947, in Corpus Christi, Texas. Her father, James, worked as an oil field contractor, and her mother, Pauline, stayed home to care for the family. Her unique name, Farrah, wasn't chosen from a book or tradition. Her mother made it up because she thought it sounded beautiful with their last name. Farrah grew up in a modest home, surrounded by the beauty of the Texas coast. Her family went to church regularly, and she attended the local Catholic school. From a young age, her charm and striking looks made her stand out, though no one could have guessed she would one day become a global icon. Farrah's beauty became impossible to ignore when she reached high school. At W.B. Ray High in Corpus Christi, she was voted Most Beautiful Student every single year from freshman to senior year, a record no one had ever achieved before. It wasn't just her looks that won people over. Her bright smile, golden hair, and friendly personality made her unforgettable. She was popular with both students and teachers, and her high school years showed the kind of presence that would later make her famous. Even while gaining all this attention, she stayed active in school activities and kept her grades up, showing she was more than just a pretty face. In 1965, Farrah left her hometown to study at the University of Texas in Austin. At first, she decided to major in microbiology, proving she had serious ambitions beyond her looks. But her beauty still captured attention wherever she went. In her very first year, she was named one of the 10 most beautiful co-eds on campus, something no freshman had ever done before. During her time at the university, she formed a close bond with one of her professors, Charles Umlauf, who encouraged her creativity and became her mentor. Later, her connection with him was celebrated in a museum exhibit, a sign of how much he inspired her. Farrah lived at Mayfair House, a well-known residence near campus, and enjoyed every part of the college experience. Farrah also joined the Delta 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 sorority and quickly became one of the most admired members. Her sorority sisters described her as kind and humble, even though her beauty made her stand out. She took part in charity events and campus activities, earning respect for how approachable and grounded she was. Her time at the sorority left such a mark that years later, she gifted the university an art collection as a sign of gratitude. In the summer of 1968, Farrah made a life-changing decision. With some hesitation from her parents, she decided to move to Hollywood. Her father and mother, wanting to make sure she was safe, traveled with her to Los Angeles. What happened next was unbelievable. Within 2 weeks of stepping into the city, she signed a $350 a week contract with Screen Gems. It was because the Hollywood agent David Mirisch had been chasing her for years after seeing her photos and finally convinced her. This success was so fast that it completely changed her plans to go back to the University of Texas, where she had been studying microbiology. Instead, she became the face of popular commercials for brands like Ultra Bright Toothpaste, Noxzema Skin Cream, and Max Factor Cosmetics. Her rise to fame was almost magical, in a time when most people spent years trying to get noticed. In 1976, Farrah posed for the famous red swimsuit poster that became a global sensation. The photo was taken at her home by Bruce McBroom, using his last roll of film and a Mexican blanket as the backdrop. Farrah had full control over the shoot, even picking the red one-piece swimsuit herself to hide a childhood scar on her stomach. The result was a poster that sold over 12 million copies, making it the best-selling poster of all time. Farrah earned $400,000 from it, far more than she made on Charlie's Angels. Fans were so obsessed that some even claimed they could see the word sex hidden in her hair. In 2011, the Smithsonian Museum recognized its cultural importance by displaying the original swimsuit and poster. Farrah's life changed forever on September 22, 1976, when she appeared as Jill Monroe in Charlie's Angels. Critics called the show names like Jiggle TV, but viewers couldn't get enough of it. Farrah earned $5,000 per episode, a modest amount, but her influence on popular culture was massive. Her feathered hairstyle, famously called the Farrah, became a worldwide trend, with women everywhere trying to copy it. She even launched her own shampoo line. Despite her success, she shocked everyone by leaving the show after only one season. Farrah felt trapped by her role, which she described as shallow and uninteresting. She also believed she deserved better pay. While her co-star Kate Jackson earned $10,000 per episode, Farrah, despite being the most popular, was paid only $5,000. To make things worse, she got only a tiny 2% cut from the merchandise featuring her image. When she asked for $75,000 per episode and a bigger share of merchandise profits to return for Season 2, the producers refused. Farrah's decision to leave wasn't just about money or creative frustration, it was about taking control of her career. But the show's producers didn't let her go quietly. They sued her for $7 million, accusing her of breaching her contract. The legal battle was tough and very public. In the end, Farrah had to agree to appear as a guest star in 6 episodes of the show over the next few years. The fallout from the lawsuit hurt her career. Hollywood studios began avoiding her, and she lost major roles, including one in the hit movie Foul Play, which went to Goldie Hawn. Farrah later admitted the lawsuit nearly ruined her, making it incredibly hard to find work. Beyond the legal and financial struggles, Farrah was deeply unhappy with the kind of roles she was being offered. She wanted to challenge herself as an actress, not just play the same kind of pretty, one-dimensional characters. The long, grueling days on the set of Charlie's Angels also strained her personal life, including her marriage to actor Lee Majors. In a bold move to take charge of her future, she and Majors started their own production company, Fawcett Majors Productions, hoping to make films on their own terms. But the early projects didn't go well. Movies like Somebody Killed Her Husband, 1978, and Sunburn, 1979, were disappointments, despite Farrah earning huge salaries. Her struggles continued with Saturn III, 1980, another box office flop. Farrah wasn't ready to give up, though. In 1984, The Burning Bed changed everything for both Farrah Fawcett and television itself. This made-for-TV movie shattered expectations and became NBC's most-watched television movie ever. It was groundbreaking, not just because of its success, but because it was the first time domestic violence was shown so openly on television. The story was based on Francine Hughes, a real woman who, after years of abuse, set her husband on fire while he was asleep. Farrah's performance as Francine was raw and emotional, showing a side of her no one had seen before. It wasn't easy to get this movie on the air. Networks hesitated for years, questioning if audiences would even want to see Farrah, known for her glamorous roles, in something so dark. But when it finally aired, it didn't just make waves in entertainment. The movie sparked a national conversation about domestic violence and even led to changes in U.S. law. For the first time, a TV movie provided a nationwide hotline for abuse victims, offering real help to those in need. When Farrah appeared on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, she spoke about how hard it was to convince people to make the film. But the impact proved it was worth the fight. The powerful performance earned her an Emmy nomination and proved she had serious acting talent. 2 years later, in 1986, Farrah took on another challenging role in Extremities. This time, she played Marjorie, a woman who turns the tables on a man trying to attack her. The story was intense. Farrah and her co-stars went all out, slapping each other for real to keep the emotions authentic. The movie earned her a Golden Globe nomination and showed everyone that she could take on tough, dramatic roles. It also connected with audiences, earning $13.4 million at the box office. A clear sign that people were ready to see this new, fearless side of Farrah Fawcett. 3 years later, in 1989, she earned another nomination for Small Sacrifices. This time, she took on the chilling role of Diane Downs, a mother who shockingly shot her own children just to win the love of a man. Her performance was unforgettable, leaving audiences stunned by how deeply she could portray such a dark and complex character. Then, in 2004, she was nominated again for The Guardian, proving that her talent only grew stronger with time. During the 1970s and 1980s, Farrah Fawcett stood firm against publishing nude photos in magazines, despite her brief topless scene in the 1980 film Saturn III. This changed in December 1995 when, at age 48, she made headlines by posing semi-nude for Playboy. 2 years later, at 50, she returned to Playboy for a unique project. She used her own body to paint on canvas, fulfilling a long-held artistic dream. Both issues became top sellers. A memorable moment came on June 5, 1997, when Fawcett appeared on David Letterman's show. Her scattered behavior and wandering attention drew criticism, though she later explained on Howard Stern's show that she had just been playing around and reacting to fans in the audience. The incident became such a cultural touchpoint that years later, in 2009, Letterman referenced it after a similarly puzzling interview with Joaquin Phoenix, saying, "We owe an apology to Farrah Fawcett." That same year brought a career highlight when Robert Duvall chose her to play his wife in his independent film, The Apostle. Her performance earned her an Independent Spirit Award nomination. She continued taking challenging roles, appearing in Robert Altman's Dr. T and the Women in 2000 as Richard Gere's troubled wife, a role that included her first fully nude scene. Fawcett's artistic interests extended beyond acting. Around 2001, she developed a friendship with artist Christopher Ciccone, sharing her abstract paintings and sculptures with him. Her artistic journey peaked in 2002 when she collaborated with sculptor Keith Edmier. Their work was showcased at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art and later at the Andy Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh. In 2003, Fawcett prepared for what should have been her Broadway debut in Bobby Boland, playing a former Miss Florida. However, the show never made it past previews. The sudden cancellation left Fawcett deeply frustrated, especially since the same producer had just closed another show she was backing. Apart from that, Farrah's love life had few ups and downs. Her love story with Lee Majors seemed straight out of a movie. While Lee was working on The Big Valley, his agent saw a photo of Farrah and knew she was perfect for him. Lee left her a bold message, saying he'd pick her up at 8 p.m. Their first date, though, was a bit awkward. Farrah wasn't a drinker and ordered a scotch and coke, which made her feel so sick that she spent part of the evening in the ladies' room. Despite the rocky start, the two fell deeply in love. After 5 years of dating, they got married on July 28, 1973, becoming one of Hollywood's most glamorous couples, often compared to modern-day power couples like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Despite their glamorous image, cracks appeared in their relationship as Fawcett's fame soared. By 1976, their conflicting schedules made it difficult to spend time together, and by 1979, they were only seeing each other a few weeks out of the year. Majors reportedly felt threatened by her growing success and imposed strict rules, including demanding she be home by 6:30 p.m. to cook dinner, no matter her filming commitments. The breaking point came in 1979 when Lee was filming in Canada. He asked his friend Ryan ONeal to check on Farrah while he was away. Instead of just checking in, Ryan and Farrah fell for each other. Soon after, Farrah announced she and Lee were separating. The divorce wasn't easy. It took more than 2 years and got messy as they fought over their house and Farrah's earnings from ads. Farrah later said, "When Lee married me, I was someone who just wanted to cook his meals and clean his house. But I'm not like that anymore." Their divorce was final in 1982, ending their 9-year marriage. After that, Ryan and Farrah started dating. Ryan later said their first date was magical. "We kissed so much our lips were sore. I could have kissed her forever." Ryan and Farrah's relationship became intense and passionate, and they stayed together on and off for years. In 1985, Farrah and Ryan had a son, Redmond ONeal. Farrah was 38 when Redmond was born, and she said being a mom changed her life completely. She called him her greatest joy. But their family life wasn't easy. One of the biggest struggles was ONeal's temper and rumored substance abuse. Friends often described their relationship as fiery and unpredictable. Sylvia Dorsey, a close friend, once said, "They fought and loved with passion. It was never boring." But some arguments turned frightening. In one instance, their young son, Redmond, was so distressed by their fighting that he threatened to harm himself if they didn't stop. These moments reflected the deep struggles in their home life, even as they remained devoted to each other. Their careers also added pressure. Fawcett's fame skyrocketed after Charlie's Angels, while ONeal's acting career started to fade. This imbalance created jealousy and tension between them, adding to the strain. Despite this, they stayed together for nearly 20 years before their first major breakup in 1997. ONeal admitted he had been difficult, calling himself a jerk, while saying Fawcett was going through changes he didn't understand. He also confessed that living with someone as demanding as her had been exhausting. Family drama made things worse. ONeal's children from previous relationships, particularly his daughter Tatum ONeal, shared troubling accounts of his behavior. In her autobiography, Tatum described her father as abusive and struggling with drug problems, painting a chaotic picture of life in their household. Their relationship hit its lowest point on Valentine's Day in 1997. Fawcett walked in on ONeal in bed with another woman, actress Leslie Ann Stephenson, who was much younger than both of them. The betrayal was devastating, made worse by the fact that it happened on a day meant to celebrate love. Fawcett had planned to surprise ONeal at his Malibu home, but instead found him with Stephenson. According to ONeal, Fawcett was deeply hurt but not angry, and the incident led to the end of their relationship. The fallout from this affair was swift and public. News of the betrayal spread quickly, turning ONeal into a villain in the tabloids and earning Fawcett sympathy from fans and friends alike. ONeal later admitted to giving Fawcett the famous Andy Warhol portrait of her after the incident, saying it made his new partner uncomfortable. This act symbolized the end of their relationship, which remained broken for years. Despite the heartbreak, their bond wasn't completely shattered. In 2001, They reunited when ONeal was diagnosed with leukemia. Fawcett stood by him during his treatment, showing that, even after everything, their connection was hard to break. Farrah Fawcett's life changed forever in September 2006, when she was told she had anal cancer at the age of 58. This type of cancer is rare, with only a small number of cases each year, and hers was especially aggressive. Farrah started treatment right away, going through tough chemotherapy and radiation in California. At first, she kept the news private, sharing it only with her closest family and friends. But her privacy was invaded when workers at UCLA Medical Center looked at her medical records without permission and sold the information to the press. This betrayal hurt her deeply, and the hospital later found one employee had looked at her records over 900 times. In February 2007, on her 60th birthday, Farrah got what seemed like great news. Doctors said her cancer was gone. She was overjoyed and started planning to return to her normal life, even thinking about new acting projects. But the happiness didn't last long. Farrah suspected her private health updates were still being leaked to the tabloids. To find out, she tested her theory by telling only her doctor that the cancer might have returned. Just a few days later, the story appeared in the news, proving her suspicions were correct. Farrah also made a brave decision to film her entire cancer journey. With her friend Alana Stewart, she recorded every moment, even the hardest ones, for a documentary called Farrah's Story. She wanted people to see the reality of cancer, not just the pain, but the courage it takes to keep fighting. When her friend suggested stopping the camera during a particularly difficult moment, Farrah refused, saying, "This is what cancer is. Film it." When the documentary aired in May 2009, it reached millions of viewers and even earned her an Emmy nomination after her death. In May 2007, Farrah went for a checkup, and doctors found a tiny new polyp. The cancer was back, and this time it had spread to her liver. This made her chances of survival much lower, and she was devastated. She had followed every rule and stayed hopeful. But it wasn't enough. Feeling let down by the treatments in the US, Farrah decided to try something different and began looking for help outside the country. Desperate for new treatments, Farrah traveled to Germany, where she tried experimental procedures unavailable in the US. Doctors there removed the anal tumor, treated her liver, and used techniques like laser therapy and chemoembolization. For a while, things seemed to improve, and Farrah kept hoping for the best. But the cancer returned again, forcing her to keep fighting through more difficult treatments. Even as her health declined, she stayed determined, believing her story could help others facing similar battles. Perhaps one of the most poignant aspects of Fawcett's battle was her approach to losing her iconic hair, the very feature that had helped make her famous. After maintaining her signature blonde feathered locks through initial rounds of chemotherapy, the final treatments began taking their toll. Her hairstylist Mela Murphy recalled the heartbreaking moment when Fawcett's hair started falling out. "I was brushing her hair, and it was just coming out. I didn't even respond. I was just putting it in my pockets, in my pants, pulling it out of the brush." Rather than hide this deeply personal moment, Fawcett insisted on documenting it. In a powerful act of defiance against the disease, she chose to shave her own head. As her oncologist Dr. Lawrence Pyro explained, it was very important for Farrah to shave her own head so that she was removing her hair, and cancer treatment wasn't removing her hair. It's kind of like that fine line between being a victim and a victor. Even during these tough times, Farrah found moments of joy. Once, while traveling in Germany, she spotted a Whataburger restaurant. Despite being on a strict diet, she begged her friends to stop. Wrapped in blankets, she sat there in the middle of the night, eating a burger and sipping a Coca-Cola. She laughed, joked with her doctors, and stayed close to her friends. Even in her weakest moments, she showed kindness to everyone around her. Just weeks before her death, Ryan ONeal proposed to her in the hospital. She said yes, proving she still had hope and love in her heart. Farrah Fawcett passed away on June 25, 2009, at 9:28 a.m. in Santa Monica, California. In her final days, she faced serious problems like bleeding and infections that left her in intensive care. Her loved ones knew how bad it was, but they didn't tell her. They wanted her to keep believing she could fight through it. Her death left a deep impact on the people who loved her most. Ryan ONeal, her partner of 30 years, was heartbroken. He said he couldn't imagine life without her. Before she passed, Farrah had one final wish. She wanted her mother's ashes, who had died in 2005, to be placed in her coffin. Ryan made sure her wish came true. Farrah's strength, love, and bravery touched everyone around her and left a lasting mark on the world. As her condition got worse, Farrah had one more goal: to create a foundation that would help others. Before she passed away in 2009, at the age of 62, she started the Farrah Fawcett Foundation. The foundation focused on supporting cancer patients who couldn't afford the care she was lucky to have. One story that shaped the foundation's work came from a young boy named Brian Wilson. His family struggled to afford trips for his chemotherapy, which were almost 4 hours each way. This inspired the creation of the Patient Assistance Fund, which helps families with expenses like travel, food, and lodging. By 2024, the foundation had grown, working with 7 cancer centers across the U.S. to ease the financial burden for patients. Farrah's foundation didn't stop there. It also partnered with researchers to fight HPV-related cancers, the type of cancer Farrah faced. In 2014, it teamed up with Stand Up to Cancer to fund a groundbreaking project. They gave $1.2 million to a team working on a new vaccine for patients with advanced cancers caused by HPV. This vaccine wasn't just for prevention. It was designed to treat cancer in patients whose tumors had already formed. For people with few treatment options left, this research brought hope. The foundation also focuses on spreading awareness about HPV-related cancers. In 2024, it gave $75,000 to UC Davis for a program teaching people about the risks of HPV. Many don't realize that HPV is the cause of most anal, cervical, throat, and other cancers. The program works with rural communities, using simple and clear education in both English and Spanish, to encourage vaccinations and regular screenings. These efforts are especially important because HPV vaccines can prevent nearly 90% of cervical cancers. Farrah's foundation does more than fund research or teach people about cancer. It helps patients in their hardest moments. For example, a man named James in Houston received lodging support during his treatment at MD Anderson Cancer Center. His thank you note showed just how much this kind of help can mean during such a tough time. Farrah Fawcett became a cultural icon in the 1970s, changing American pop culture forever with her unique blend of talent and unforgettable imagery. Her signature hairstyle, the Farrah Flip, swept through the fashion world. Women everywhere wanted her look, and the trend boosted industries like blow dryers and curling irons, keeping the style popular well into the 1980s. Farrah wasn't just about beauty, though. Her role as Jill Monroe in Charlie's Angels proved that women on television could be both glamorous and strong, breaking stereotypes and capturing audiences like never before. The show's popularity soared, reaching the #1 spot in ratings. Reflecting on the success, Farrah joked, "When the show got to be #3, I figured it was our acting. When it got to be #1, I decided it could only be because none of us wears a bra." Her charm and wit made her even more relatable to fans. Farrah's influence stretched beyond TV and posters. She inspired the hit song "Midnight Train to Georgia" by Gladys Knight and the Pips after a casual phone call with songwriter Jim Weatherly. The Charlie's Angels craze also led to a flood of merchandise like fashion dolls, bubblegum cards, puzzles, and board games, proving her star power wasn't limited to the screen. Despite the overwhelming success, Farrah made a bold decision to leave Charlie's Angels after just 1 season. She wanted more control over her career and sought challenging roles, setting a new standard for actors to prioritize their artistic ambitions over staying in comfortable, popular roles. Farrah's courage and vision continue to inspire new generations. Her decision to leave Charlie's Angels at the peak of its success became a playbook for actresses looking to move beyond typecasting. Many have followed in her footsteps, from Sally Field in Norma Rae to Charlize Theron in Monster. Her influence is still seen in the fashion world, where designers often draw on her iconic hairstyle and effortless beauty when creating 1970s-inspired collections.